Hi, my name is Chastity Altman. I'm going to present to you today a data overview for our school, Blackshear Elementary School. It's over third grade ELA data, and I'm part of the ELA team and as well as the data coach for our school. So we're going to look at this presentation and talk about it a little bit. The purpose of this presentation is to review our student enrollment over the past 4 years, to review our select student demographic data over the past 4 years, to look at our third grade ELA end of grade assessment data compared to district and state, evaluate strengths and weaknesses that we see in that data, and lay out next steps to plan for improvement so that we can improve the instruction and the learning of our students. The questions that we will be considering as we go throughout this data are: how are our third graders doing in comparison to district and state ELA test scores? In what areas do they show strengths? In what areas do they need to improve? How is our current curriculum playing a part in these results? What can we do as teachers to implement positive changes in our ELA classrooms? First, we're going to be taking a look at our school's enrollment. We're looking at our elementary schools for our district. Our school, BES, is in the blue. Another school, MES, is shown in the red, and our third elementary school in our district is shown in the green, that is PES. Over at the top are overall numbers of students enrolled in our elementary schools, and here are years in which this data has occurred, and you'll see that consistently our school has had about double the enrollment that the other elementary schools in our district have had. This is our BES student enrollment determined by the ethnicity, the ethnic groups that we have enrolled at our school. So we have the largest chunk is our white population of students. Our red chunks, our black population of students. The green is Hispanic. The purple is multiracial, and then we have a very small percentage of other, and that may be Native American, Indians, and Asians, and others. So our total populations are shown on each graph. And as you can see, the numbers are consistently staying about the same, and the way that it is distributed among the ethnic groups is staying about the same as well. Our school is about 75% white, predominantly white, and then our black population is between 13 and 15% consistently. Our data in concerns to our students with disabilities has also stayed consistent over the past 4 years. You can see that the numbers have ranged from 102 students to 111 students who are students with disabilities in our school. And then the number of students without disabilities has ranged from 743 to 761. So those numbers have stayed really consistent for us. Next, we're going to look at our socioeconomic status in regards to our school, BES, as well as how it looks in comparison to MES and to PES, our other elementary schools in our district. The first thing to notice with our BES graph here is that consistently our population of students that are economically disadvantaged stays at least double the numbers of our students enrolled who are not economically disadvantaged. So we do have a very drastic difference in our students in that socioeconomic range. And our other schools in our district, MES and PES, their differences between their economically disadvantaged and not economically disadvantaged is not near as wide as our score or our demographics show for our school. So we are serving a population of students who are, for the most part, economically disadvantaged in our school district. The next thing we're going to look at are our scores compared to our state and district scores on the third grade end of the year exams. The first 2 years that we're looking at are the CRCT scores, and then the other 2 years that we'll be looking at are the milestone scores. Starting with 2012 and 13, you'll see that this was CRCT data, and we have our state scores at the top as opposed to our school district, and then our school's scores. And the blue would be where they do the percentage of kids that do not meet the proficiency levels. The red would be the percentage of the students who meet, and then the green are the percentage of students who exceed. So we'll notice in the CRCT scores for both of these years, our BES scores that did not meet stayed higher than the district scores, but lower than the state scores. So our percentage of not proficient is better than the state level, but not at the district level. And that was for both years for the CRCT data. And then if you look at the milestone data from the years 14-15 and 15-16, with our state, district, and school level data being reported, again, our non-proficient student population, our percentage there, is greater than our district for both years, and then it remains less than the state's level for non-proficient. So we're doing better than the state numbers, but as a whole for our district, we're not doing as well as the other schools. The next item of data that I wanted us to look at would be the score comparisons by student subgroups, particularly focusing on the black and white student populations, the differences there, with the does not meet, meets, and exceeds rates on the 2012-13 CRCT data and the 2013-2014 CRCT data, and then taking a look at the last 2 years of the milestone data. So on this graph, we have our school BES and the data for white and black test scores. We also have the district data and the state data. And what we'll notice is our area of blue, which is does not meet, shows that there's a huge gap between our black population of students and our white population of students. And that gap was significant for both the 2012-2013 year and the 2013-2014 year. So that is something that we definitely needed to study the milestone data to see if that was remaining consistent. And what we'll notice is, as we look at that data, we'll see that for our school, our black students and white students, the gap in between the beginning learners percentages were not as far apart, but we did notice that as far as distinguished learner scores go, there were none in the black population of students for our school for the 2014-2015 school year. And for the 2015-2016 school year, we'll notice that the achievement gap for the beginning learners for the white students and the black students at BES widened again a little more. But what continued to happen was that there were no distinguished learners in the black population, as there were a good percentage of those in the white population. So that is definitely something that we need to focus on, making sure that the black student population at BES that there are some students who do score proficiency levels that are in the distinguished learner category, and then still looking at that gap in the beginning learners category and trying to lessen that between our Black and white population of students at Blackshear Elementary School. As far as the strengths go that we can see from the data that we've looked at, our enrollment has stayed pretty consistent over the last 4 years. Our demographics and our subgroups within that enrollment have been pretty stable. The percentage of our third graders who are proficient remains higher than state proficient rates over the past 4 years. Some weaknesses that we can discover from that data are that the percentage of third graders not proficient in ELA continues to be higher than that of the school district in each of the 4 years. The achievement gap between the scores for Black students and white students continues to be substantial. Black students are not scoring in the distinguished learner category. So what we can take from those strengths and weaknesses, we can use those to fuel some discussion questions that we may have at this time to think about and talk together. Things like, how can we utilize our strengths to improve third grade ELA proficiency? What can be done differently to shrink the achievement gap in ELA between Black and white third grade students at BES? As students, what can we do to better the instructional experiences for our Black student population? And how can we use the data available to improve ELA test scores for third grade students? Some next steps that we should take following our data overview would be to carefully analyze and discuss the information presented today, to determine an action plan that will address weaknesses discovered by the data, to design steps to ensure that the action plan is implemented, and to plan for continued monitoring of assessments and progress towards meeting these goals. That concludes my presentation of our data overview. If you have any questions or comments or additional ideas, be sure to get with me and we'll discuss those. Thank you.